Hello, I'm R.A. Spratt. I write and perform this podcast. If you'd like to support the show, I'm a children's author, so you can buy a book by me, or you can buy me a coffee by going to buymeacoffee.com/storiesRASpratt. It's an easy way to make a small thank you gift to the show so I can keep kicking this can down the road. The podcast directory you're using right now should have a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the show notes, or you can type it into your browser. That's buymeacoffee.com/storiesRASpratt. All contributions are gratefully appreciated. Hello and welcome to Bedtime Stories with me, R.A. Spratt. All right, well, this week, because I have been so much in the world of Friday Barnes, I've just recently finished Friday Barnes 14, and I'm about to start editing it so that it can be released in September. And I've really spent the last week trying to book theatres so that I can hold some book launches for it. But anyway, my mind has been very much on Friday and the Friday world, and people have been asking all about the TV show that's they're trying to get together based on Friday. So I thought, because it's Easter, I've also been spending a lot of time with my kids, so I didn't have time to write anything for the podcast this week. So I thought I would read you a chapter from Friday Barnes 13, so get you thinking about Friday again, ready for the next book to come out. So I went through and I picked out a couple of mini mysteries. So I'll do one for this week, and then I'll save the last mini mystery from the book to read just before Friday Barnes 14 comes out. So this week, we're going to do a story. So Friday Barnes 13, in case you haven't read it, it's all set in New York, and Friday and Melanie go there because they're looking for Binky and Ingrid because they've disappeared from Norway. They get there and they find them and everything's okay. But then Ingrid is working at the Morgan Library, which is a very famous, it's a museum. You probably think of it more as a museum than a library, although it is a library. It's a museum really of books. So anyway, Ingrid is working there as a volunteer, and there's been problems at the library. And, because Friday's a detective, she asks Friday to come with her to work to check it out. But when they get there, there's a bit of a side quest they have to go on. So that's the story I'm going to read to you today. Okay, so this is chapter 15, The Morgan. Friday and Melanie met Ingrid outside the Morgan Library. The exterior was not particularly impressive. There were large banners flapping in the breeze proclaiming what the institution was. But the building itself was just a brownstone, just like the brownstone terrace houses up in Harlem. Indeed, just like the houses in many of the residential neighbourhoods of New York. The difference was the location. This brownstone was right in the heart of central Manhattan and had once been the residence of J.P. Morgan, one of the richest men in the world. It also had an annex, which was a stunning contrast of modern architecture, with high glass walls and ceilings that complemented the original building beautifully. There were no giant stone lions or fiberglass dinosaur statues out the front of this museum, just quiet, understated elegance that, to the observant eye, said, "Money lives here." Ingrid flashed her ID card and her most dazzling smile at the security guard at the staff entrance and quietly explained that the teenagers accompanying her were special friends. She leaned in to whisper further, special consultants from Interpol, which was, of course, actually true, but to any sane person, not at all believable. Melanie looked like a socialite, which she was, and Friday looked like a scruffy 15-year-old nerd, which she was. But Ingrid had a powerful smile and a great deal of confidence, as you would if you'd been raised as a member of a royal family, and the security guard didn't bat an eye. It was early in the morning and the museum had only just opened. There was a ticket desk along one wall with two very dignified women sitting behind it, wearing immaculate and understated uniforms. They tapped away at computers silently. The foyer was a large sun-drenched room with marble floors. It opened out into a big atrium with a cafe. It was all very French and stylish. A glass wall showcased a garden beyond, then the stone exterior walls of the original building framed the space on either side. "The collection is housed in the East Wing," explained Ingrid. "The gift shop and the offices are in the West Wing, and special exhibitions are in the annex above the cafe." They looked up. A glass elevator shaft led up to a floor of modern rooms sandwiched between the original brownstones. "Come and meet the interns," said Ingrid. "They're the people you'll be working with at the fundraiser." How many interns do you have? Asked Friday. 4, said Ingrid. Do you get along with them? Asked Friday. For the most part, said Ingrid. That sounds cryptic, said Melanie. Well, the internship program here is very highly regarded, said Ingrid. It looks great on a CV, so there's a lot of demand for places. We tend to get 2 types. The first are incredibly high calibre, but they can also be so ambitious and hard-working that sometimes their moral compass is a little loose. Then the other half of the interns are the polar opposite. They're polar bears? Asked Melanie. No, Nepo babies, said Ingrid. People who got their internships because their family made large donations to the museum. That doesn't sound very ethical, said Friday. Multi-million-dollar donations are rarely ethical, said Ingrid. They are, at the very least, a tax dodge. Sometimes they're to spite heirs, and sometimes they're to get your wayward grandson out of the house for 8 weeks. But on the whole, the group we've got on the internship program right now are a pretty good team. Ingrid opened the door to the office, and her words were immediately belied by the scene before her. A young Asian woman was apparently attempting to murder a lanky young white man. The young man was flat on his stomach, trying to get his assailant to release her arm from his neck. She would have been half his size, but she was sitting on his back, and he was laughing so hard he couldn't get free. Her other friend, an athletic-looking young black woman, was videoing the whole thing with her phone. "Give it back!" cried the first young woman, while trying to bash her victim's head into the linoleum floor. "Lynn, what are you doing?" exclaimed Ingrid. "I'm trying to kill Harrison," said Lynn. "I can see that," said Ingrid. "But why?" "He ate my lunch." "Again?" said Ingrid. "If I'm going to starve to death, I'm going to take him out with me," said Lynn, trying to bang Harrison's head once more. "You can't kill him," said Ingrid. "There are too many witnesses now. You'd get in trouble." "It's assault," said Harrison. "She's assaulted me." "With a personality like yours, it's a wonder more people don't assault you," said Ingrid. "What are you even doing here?" demanded Kate, the other intern. "Why do you even want this internship? You're an engineering major." "I have a passion for the literary arts," said Harrison. "You've got a passion for being a pain in the butt," said Lynn. "This is workplace bullying," said Harrison. "I'm going to report you all." "None of us are paid to work here," said Ingrid. "There's not much anyone can do to punish us." "I'm going to tell my grandmother," said Harrison. "Fine, I've got a video," said Kate. "If I send it to her, she'll probably give us a reward." "Besides, you started it," Ingrid told Harrison. "You're the one who keeps eating everyone else's lunch." Ingrid grabbed hold of Lynn and pulled her away. Harrison sat up and rubbed his shoulder. "I didn't eat her lunch," said Harrison. "I don't appreciate being falsely accused. It's very rude." "Harrison, you eat someone else's lunch every day," said Ingrid. "Why do you do it?" demanded Lynn. "You're as rich as Croesus. Your family owns half of New York. Why don't you just buy lunch like a normal person?" "Because there's always a delicious lunch here in the fridge," said Harrison, with the smug grin of the good-looking, wealthy, and incredibly entitled. "It seems silly to go across the road to a shop when I could just have a quick lunch here and continue working." "But it's stealing if it's someone else's lunch," wailed Lynn. "Why do you keep eating my food?" "I didn't eat it," said Harrison, laughing. "He isn't lying," said Melanie. "How would you know?" asked Kate, glaring at Melanie. "Melanie can always tell if someone is lying," said Friday. "It's an inexplicable gift. She's also got African sleeping sickness, so perhaps it's a side effect." "Then where is my lunch?" asked Lynn. "I don't know," said Harrison. "Now he's lying," said Melanie. "Why did you put it in the fridge?" asked Ingrid. "You know he always steals food from the fridge." "I didn't," said Lynn. "I hid it. Mum got me a bio-waste disposal container from the hospital." "How?" asked Friday. "She's a nurse in the ICU," explained Lynn. "They use them all the time for the bits they cut out of patients." Kate reached under a desk and slid out a bright yellow cooler with frightening warning symbols printed all around the sides. It said, "Bio-waste. Do not open." "I certainly wouldn't eat anything that came out of there," said Melanie. "Exactly. Nobody in their right mind would eat anything marked bio-waste. I thought my lunch would be safe," said Lynn. "Plus, this container is designed to hold dry ice alongside a biological specimen. It's the next best thing to a fridge." "Well, what did you have for lunch?" asked Friday. "Meatball soup," said Lynn. "It even looked like bio-waste. It was blood red and had bits floating in it. It looked totally gross." He's not in his right mind, said Kate. She pinched Harrison on the arm. Ow, said Harrison. This is torture. Torture is outlawed under the Geneva Convention. I'm sure if we explained the circumstances, they'd turn a blind eye just this once, said Kate. I didn't eat your lunch, said Harrison. He was laughing. He was enjoying this. But you'd know who did, said Friday. Where's the fourth intern? Ugh, Phil had to go home, said Kate. He was throwing up. Perhaps because he'd eaten something bad, said Friday. Harrison was shaking with laughter. Did you feed Phil some bio-waste as a joke? Friday asked Harrison. No, said Harrison. Friday looked at Melanie. Melanie shook her head. He's not lying. Friday was confused. Perhaps it's semantics, said Melanie. Ah. Did Phil eat it for some other reason? Asked Friday. I bet him $50 he wouldn't do it, admitted Harrison. That's just cruel. You know Phil doesn't have any money, said Kate. He got a free lunch out of it too, said Harrison. It's your lunch that gave him food poisoning. But if he thought he was eating bio-waste, that alone would be enough to give him psychosomatic symptoms, said Friday. Thinking he was eating body parts would be enough to make him sick. So you did poison him. You poisoned his mind. Okay, said Ingrid. Lynn, you've assaulted Harrison. Harrison has psychologically assaulted Phil. Can we call it even and end this now? But what about my lunch? Asked Lynn. I'm hungry. Kate pulled Harrison's wallet out of his pocket and opened it up. He stole Lynn's lunch. I'll steal 20 of his dollars and give it to Lynn. Then we're even. Thank you, said Ingrid. Now, this is Friday and Melanie. They'll be working with us at the launch. What, do you think we can't handle it? Asked Kate. Friday is a brilliant detective, said Ingrid. I thought it would be handy to have her around to prevent crime. Welcome aboard, said Kate. Don't put food in the fridge, said Lynn. Harrison got up and straightened his clothes. He was tall now that he was standing. His dark hair was floppy and longer than was fashionable, but his clothes were the type of preppy fashion all the rich kids had worn at Highcrest Academy. He grinned at Friday and Melanie. Enchanted to meet you, he said, holding out his hand. Friday reached out to take it. It was an instinctive response. But Harrison didn't shake her hand. He bowed and kissed the back of her fingers. Melanie sighed. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Since you'll be working with us, you should meet the director, said Ingrid. Have we agreed to work for you? Asked Friday. Oh, yes, said Ingrid. I can see it in your eyes. You don't want to let me down. And we'll leave it there. All right, so that's one of the little mini mysteries in that book. Book 13 if you want to read it yourself. And yes, so that's leading up to the next one, book 14, which is coming out in September. I'm really excited about it. I'm so pleased to have finished it. It came out really well and the publishers are happy. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on for the next few months, is editing that to get it ready for release. All right, so next week, I'm thinking maybe the story of Helen of Troy or Cassandra, who... They say Helen of Troy, but Helen wasn't actually from Troy originally. She was from Greece. And Cassandra was from Troy because she was Paris' sister. So I might do one of those ladies next, because we're going to be getting into the Trojan Wars. And Helen of Troy has a lot to do with the start of the Trojan War, and Cassandra has a lot to do with the end of the Trojan War. So I want to sort of kick off with telling their stories so we can then get into the nitty-gritty of the battle and all the things that happened. Okay, so that's it for now. Until next time. Goodbye. Hello, it's me again. If you enjoyed listening to Bedtime Stories with R.A. Spratt, it would be really helpful if you could like, subscribe, follow, and or review the show on whatever podcast platform you're listening to now. Every little one of those digital affirmations helps, and the bigger this podcast gets, the more I can justify procrastinating from my real job to keep bringing these stories to you. Thank you.